I'm Leah Lane, an award-winning travel writer and author of Places I Remember, Tales, Truths, Delights from 100 Countries. On this podcast, we share conversations with travelers about fascinating destinations and memorable experiences around the world. In the years before TripAdvisor and social media, I wrote travel guidebooks for major publications. And one of the destinations I wrote about was the spectacular Amalfi Coast. In southern Italy, it overlooks the Tyrrhenian Sea and the Gulf of Salerno. From Sorrento to Salerno, it's considered one of the most scenic coastlines in the world. And it was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1997. It's got rich history, art, culture, 500-foot cliffs, 100 beaches. It's just gorgeous. Our guest, Sarah Thompson, lives in the area. She's founder of Luxama Travel, a boutique agency that specializes in custom-planned itineraries along the Amalfi Coast, one of our favorite places in the world. Welcome, Sarah, to Places I Remember.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Great to have you. In this episode, we're going to take a verbal drive along the Amalfi Coast. We'll start in the area of Sorrento and end the drive at Salerno, a modern Italian city where you can catch the highway back. Okay, let's first talk about the history of the area. The Amalfi Coast was part of the Roman Empire, and there are many patrician villas remaining today. The Romans built the original road that runs along the coast. And in the 9th century, Amalfi became the first of the 4 Italian maritime republics, along with Venice, Genoa, and Pisa. It was a commercial power, trading with the Arabs and the Byzantines. The Amalfi dukedom expanded in the 10th and 11th centuries, and when the Normans conquered the coast in 1136, Amalfi's importance declined. The engineering of the modern 35-mile 2-lane highway was in the mid-1800s, and it took 40 years to complete, linking by carriageway the towns of the Amalfi Coast to Salerno. So, Sarah, today, how would you describe driving Strata Statale 163 Amalfitana, the one and only Amalfi Coast road?
It's very, very terrifying, but a lot of fun. It's gorgeous. The views are incredible, and it's one of the best ways to see the entire coast with a short wall right next to you, with cliffs falling, a 500-foot cliffs right next to it. It's crazy.
You want to take it south, right, so that you can see the view. Most people go south along it and then come back on the highway.
Exactly. You definitely want to take it south, and some of the better views are that way.
And if you don't want to drive it, I know you can take a boat and on the water. What do you think about that?
If you are terrified of heights or driving, and Italian drivers are quite crazy, the road rules do not exist here, and scooters are going in and out of traffic. What I always recommend too for my clients, and what I prefer to do, is take the boat down the coast. It's faster, it's more relaxing, and more scenic.
You can take a tour bus, I guess, if you don't want to drive it yourself and still want to go up there. A lot of people do that. There are lots of them. I read that there's no Uber. Do you know if there's?
No, oh my goodness, there's no Uber. I wish there was. I wish there was.
There's taxi. That's expensive. And what's this odd even rule of Italy? Tell me about
Oh, the
that.
odd even. Oh my goodness. This is the definition of how Italy does not work in certain ways. So basically, there was a rule that if you had an odd number license plate, you can then drive on an even day along the Amalfi Coast. Like if you had a license plate that ended in a 7, you can then drive on even days of the month of the calendar year, and vice versa for driving on the Amalfi Coast. Otherwise, you could be pulled over and ticketed,
Oh my
and
goodness.
clearly it did not work.
No longer done, right?
No, no, I don't even
I
know if it
know.
was actually put into action, because following that must have been so complicated, and they're just trying to reduce the traffic.
Well, I think the Amalfi Coast is not so much about doing things, but just appreciating things. I felt that when I was there. I was watching and feeling and tasting in a different way the beauty, the food, the people, the towns, the steps. There's so many steps you have to, appreciate even walking. And I think that the most popular pastime is maybe something called dolce far niente, the art of doing nothing, just enjoying yourself. But we're going to go along the road now and see what we can find besides that. We're going to start in a beautiful town called Sorrento. Tell me about it.
Sorrento is absolutely beautiful. I think it's one of the best gems, even though it's technically not the Amalfi Coast, it is the Sorrento coast, but it's absolutely lovely because there's the historical town of Sorrento has all these beautiful alleyways. It's very easy to navigate, very centralized too, in between Naples, the city, Capri, the island, and then of course the Amalfi Coast. It's really accessible and it's so beautiful. Of course, Sorrento is super, super famous for its lemons. There's amazing lemon gardens in the area and in neighboring towns like Meta, Sant'Agnello, Piano di Sorrento, and that whole peninsula is really, really beautiful.
And lemons become limoncello, which is also famous, the magnificent after dinner drink, which you find all around. I loved walking in Sorrento because it was flat. And when you are in
Yes.
the Amalfi Coast, you're not going to have a lot of flat. So it's a perfect place to stroll. People shop in the evening. All the craftsmen are out doing wood inlay, and it's just lovely. And the villas there that are along the cliffs are gorgeous. Many of them hotels now.
Many
You
of them
can
are hotels, yeah, and they have their own beach clubs there. They're so beautiful, really relaxing. Some of the historical hotels there as well. What you mentioned about Sorrento being flat is it's because it's so accessible, great town to kind of centralize yourself in. And there's even an elevator to take you down to the port.
absolutely. You go down there and you can go to Capri and the
Hmm.
other islands of Procida and Ischia. They're gorgeous. You can go
Yeah.
from many areas along the Amalfi Coast, and that's Sorrento is one of them. It's a lovely port there. I think it's an underrated place. I think when everyone goes to the Amalfi Coast, Sorrento is really the gateway. So try to include that. And again, you can just walk along the hotels and go in the lobbies and look at these grand old hotels. It's a wonderful thing to do there.
One of my favorite things to do, actually, if you're not staying at those beautiful five-star luxury hotels on the cliffside, you can actually go inside them and just mention you're going to the terrace bar. They have all these beautiful terraces, terrazza, with usually a cocktail bar, which you can grab an aperitif to watch the sunset, which is stunning because from Sorrento Coast, you see the full sunset over the horizon, while the Amalfi Coast, you don't.
Excellent. I give that as a tip often. If you go to someplace where there are beautiful hotels, go in for a drink and
Yep.
you get the pleasure of all those public rooms. Now, the Amalfi Coast is associated with Greek myths about Hercules and Ulysses. One legend says that Ulysses survived hearing the siren's song on Capri by tying himself to the mast of his ship. The gods of Olympus landed on the Amalfi Coast well, it wasn't called the Amalfi Coast then, but it was the coast to prevent Ulysses from becoming shipwrecked. And that created the rugged cliffs. We're going to start on the section that everybody knows about in the gorgeous, iconic town of Positano. What makes that so special?
Wow, Positano, I think it's because I've never have seen a town built like that, built so vertically. The people there are incredible. I've seen 85-year-old walking up steps, hundreds of steps a day with fruit on top of their head, being able to go shopping at a local market, and the colors are just breathtaking.
It's something to behold. It's beautiful looking at it from a boat below. It's beautiful looking on a step above and below. The beach is gorgeous there. It's rocky, but you have this lovely little beach and you look up. It's just beautiful everywhere. I just like to sit on a terrace and watch it. And I think there are beautiful little hotels and B&Bs that the views are drop dead gorgeous. You don't have to go to the fancy Serenus or the San Pietro. You could go to almost any B&B and get the same view. And I love the way they bring the bougainvillea vines right indoors where it's vines all
Yeah, the
around you.
purple flowers are stunning.
It's
Absolutely
just
beautiful
stunning.
flowers.
If you're going to stop along the coast, that would be one of the places I would suggest. Again, there are mobility problems,
Hmm.
perhaps, and keep that in mind, but just an hour or so there gives you this great feeling of the next town that people stop at very often is the town that the coast is named after, Amalfi. The town of Amalfi is really the heart of the coast. As I mentioned, it was one of the four powerful maritime republics, and it's now one of the most popular towns. What would you check out if you went to Amalfi?
Oh, there's so much to see. Of course, there's a beautiful church there, but I actually recommend to walk past the church and keep going further up in Amalfi, and you'll see carved out Persephones on the cliffside, which are like nativity scenes that are all handmade by local artisans. Well, the artwork that they've used from actual nature on the cliff. It's really, really cool and very intricate.
The artisans who live there are obviously aware of the gorgeous setting, and it inspires them all along the way. The museum there, the Museo Arsenale Amalfi, is a medieval shipyard, and it's turned into an exhibition space. You have that as well. And you have just this feeling of the Byzantine era. It remains there more than any other place on the coast. The next place that most people would think of on the coast is perched high above the sea, more quiet than the others because it's higher up. It's a little harder to get there. It's Ravello. It has stunning views, filled with historic villas and gardens. What do you like about Ravello best?
Oh, everyone can define the word luxury differently. For me, I think Positano is the loud, exciting, maybe young luxury, while Ravello is that quiet, laid back, peaceful luxury. Stunning villas there and palaces, beautiful gardens. And I love Ravello for its history and music. They have a beautiful Ravello festival that
When
happens
is
every
that?
summer.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
the
it's
summer.
usually in the month of July or August, and it's absolutely stunning with beautiful views, amphitheater looking over the entire coast as the sun rises. It is phenomenal.
Wow. Well, I like the 13th century Moorish style Villa Ruffalo. It's got beautiful terrace gardens, and they have concerts there, I think, during the festival, but all through the year. And then there's Villa Simbrone, which is a medieval style estate perched on a steep outcrop, and it has a beautiful garden. I just think the gardens there are exceptional. I don't
Yeah,
know
they really
why
are.
they really,
Cimbrone,
yeah.
Palazzo Cafalone, like all of the villas and palaces there have stunning gardens. And they actually filmed original Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot. They actually filmed some of the scenes in Ravello at the gardens.
Well, I can see why. It's blue. You look out, you see blue sky, blue sea, because you're way high up, and it's very restful. Now, along the way, next is a town that has a very, very nice beach, and that isn't that common. There are lots of beaches, but there aren't long ones, and Mayore is one place that has it.
Maiori,
Yes, tell us about that town.
I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think it's quite similar to Sorrento, where it's much more laid back, much more accessible, and a little bit larger than some of the other Amalfi Coast towns. From Maiuri, you can take the Lemon Path connecting to Minori, which is a sister town, major town, and minor town, Minori. I think it's so beautiful that Lemon Path. You'll see some local farmers along the way, relaxing activity you can do in Maiuri.
Is it a difficult hike?
Not as difficult as the Path of Gods, but I would definitely do it if you don't have any mobility issues. Lemon trees.
Yes, the Path of the Gods that you mentioned is near Positano. Tell us a little bit about that because hikers absolutely love it. It's got the views to die for. Of course, it's way above the town. You can come down to Positano from it.
It starts in the town of Bamarano, which is past Positano. And the hike, thankfully, as you start from Bamarano, it continues down. So it's not too much of a treacherous hike, but it is not a simple, easy path. There are some rocks and stones you have to hop over or jump over. The trail finishes in the town of Nocelle, which is a beautiful little town, a little village above the town of Positano. And right by there, you can visit some amazing trattorias and frattorias and restaurants. From there, if you're feeling a little bit more adventurous, you can then actually hike down back to Positano, which is like over 500 steps, but your calves will be shaking by the end of it.
Wow, you deserve a limoncello after that, for sure.
Definitely.
Oh, okay. Well, past Maori is Chitara. That stretches along a deep valley with vineyards and citrus groves. And of all the villages on the Amalfi Coast, Chitara is known for what?
Delici,
Which is,
the anchovies.
yeah. It's since the Middle Ages, it's developed a strong link with the sea, and it's famous for its tuna anchovies. And where would you recommend eating? I'm sure there are wonderful seafood restaurants. Any of the little restaurants along the sea there would be perfect for a lovely lunch. And then we get to an area called Vietre Sul Mare, which is at the end of the Amalfi Coast, and it's known for its vibrant ceramics. What are the ceramic patterns that you see? That you see them all over the Amalfi Coast, but they're made here.
Bluish yellow color, absolutely beautiful mosaics. Really, you can find all different shapes and sizes, but a lot of them also feature fish symbols around them. Lemons, of course. Lemons are everywhere along the Amalfi Coast. The classic mosaic symbol, beautiful. And I have some of them in my own kitchen as well.
Yeah. If you want a gift, this is the place to go. You could go to the workshops and meet the craftsmen, and they'll ship it for you. It's just gorgeous stuff. And a lovely way to end because you take home these wonderful, memories in ceramics. So you come then to Salerno because that's the largest city near the Amalfi Coast at the southern end, and it serves as a major transport hub for the area. Because as I mentioned, you probably don't want to go back along the Amalfi Coast to Sorrento or Naples or wherever you're going. You usually take the highway back. How long does that take to drive from Salerno, let's say, to Sorrento or Naples?
I would say about an hour and a half. So ironically, I had to go to Vietre Sul Mare for an event, the Amalfi Coast Cocktail Week, which was a lot of fun. And it was in Vietre Sul Mare at this beautiful event space called Giardino de Fuente. There's a lot of weddings and events that happen there. From Sorrento, it was actually quicker to go back towards Naples through the highway and back towards Salerno coming out to Vietre Sul Mare from behind the cliffs than it was to go along the Amalfi Coast Drive.
How long does it normally take if you're just going to drive along the coast and don't stop and go on the Amalfi Drive? How long would you say to leave from Sorrento to Salerno?
Oh, it depends on traffic, but it depends on what month of the
Of
season you're
course,
coming in.
on a good
On a
day.
good day, okay. Scooter or car?
Car,
That's
definitely for me.
okay. With the car, I would say an hour, 45 minutes, more or less, because you're definitely want to stop to do some panoramic views. There's some beautiful spots where you can take some photos. The Foro di Furore, which is a beautiful archway, and that bridge there is absolutely stunning. So I would say, yeah, an hour and 45 minutes, depending how fast you drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to drive that when I was doing research for the guidebooks, and sometimes I had to back up because I was trying to discover places and I'd see it and I'd pass it and I'd have to back up on the Amalfi Coast. I can't believe I used to do that all the time. I wouldn't be doing that now, but I wasn't on a scooter. It probably would have been easier on a scooter. Now, there are some places I didn't mention along the Amalfi Coast that are very special that I just wanted to add in there. How about the Grotta dello Smeraldo, the Green
Grotta
Grotto?
dell'Esmeralda, the Emerald
Yes,
Grotto.
yes.
Yes, a lot
What
of people
makes
don't know about
No,
this.
I loved it, and it's really is emerald color. Tell us about it.
Of course, everyone's heard of the Seven Wonders of the World and being the Blue Grotto at Capri. Well, this one is along the Amalfi Coast, in between Conca de Marina and Amalfi, I believe. And it's a beautiful emerald grotto. You can access it by boat, or you can take an elevator from the Amalfi Coast
That's
Drive.
what I did. It was very easy. You just get off, come down into this
Really
gorgeous
easy, a
green.
lot bigger, so you don't have to lean back to get into the
Right.
grotto like you do in the azzurro one. And the emerald green color is spectacular. It's definitely
Yeah.
something to be seen.
I thought it would be a tourist trap. Everybody says things like gorgeous, green, and all, you go along the road, but no, it was worth it. So if you want a little stop that's special, that would be one I would recommend. You also mentioned di Forare, which is a little area nestled between two sheer rock faces. It's by Positano. Is it near
Yeah, just
there?
after Positano,
Yeah.
Furore. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a tiny little beach, calm waters, and beautiful views from the bridge there. You might even catch some cliff jumpers, divers who go there.
Yeah, they used to do I believe it was the Red Bull diving competition. They used to do that there. I would never do that.
No,
No,
no. It's hard enough to drive the Amalfi
it's
Coast,
already
right?
hard enough to
That's
drive. Yeah.
enough. Okay. And there's one little village that's so tiny. I think it's the tiniest village in Italy. It's considered so, and people pass it by. It's just south of Amalfi. I love it. It's called Atrani. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, Trani. I love Trani. It's so beautiful. I think it's also another little gem along the Amalfi Coast. One of my favorite beaches is in Trani as well.
It's under a
Um,
bridge. The bridge is the
Yep,
beach is,
the
yeah.
bridge there, and you can actually walk in between. It's super lovely. I think Atrani, and I would also say Conca de Marini, being one of the smallest towns in the Amalfi Coast, one of my two favorites. Also, to Conca de Marini, you can only access that by boat or by foot, which is
Yeah, that's what
crazy.
makes it so special because the crowds have come, of course. So I highly recommend if you could do it off season. Summer is very crowded. If you could do it in May or September, October, those would be better if you can manage it because I guess traffic slows down when it's crowded. That would be the good thing. You have to go maybe a little bit slower to get around. But when I was there, this is way back, it wasn't yet discovered like today. So you had the opportunity to stop a little and look around and not feel so pushed. I just wanted to mention the food. It's Great cheese, great seafood. We mentioned lemons and we mentioned anchovies. Is there any special foods you enjoy on the Amalfi Coast?
Oh, I have two actually. One is seafood and one is vegetarian friendly. So one of my favorite seafoods I like to eat here are the canolicchie, which are razor clams, and
Mm,
I've had them at one of my favorite restaurants in Conca de Marini. La Tonarella is so
awesome.
good. I would always, anytime we rent a boat, I would always want to stop there for lunch. My favorite pasta dish, though, has to be the pasta alla Norano, which is the spaghetti with zucchini. It's classic.
Mm.
So good.
Well, the farms above the drive, produce all this wonderful stuff. They produce tomatoes that are wonderful. And my favorite sign, I think, of all time was when I passed a little market and it had a sign for the tomatoes. It said natural Viagra or Viagra Naturale.
Viagra, that's the pepperoncino. That is
Yeah.
like the red pepper flakes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was so cute. I wasn't expecting that. I just like tomatoes, but it was so charming to come
Get
across
something
that.
special instead.
Yeah, I remember that. Memories, right? Well, speaking of such, the name of the podcast is Places I Remember. So, Sarah, would you please share with us one of your special personal memories of the beautiful Amalfi Coast?
Ooh, I have so many. And I think one of them has to be when I was on the scooter with my husband, Luigi, who's Italian from this area, and we're just driving along the coast. The amount of color that you see is absolutely stunning. And we went down to this tiny little beach area that is a natural reserve. So you have to walk there. No boats are allowed there. There's no restaurants, nothing, just rocks and cliffs. This beautiful natural reserve called Jerontal. And just laying back in the water, facing the cliff and thinking, this is heaven. How do places on earth exist like this? It's incredible. And every summer when I'm swimming in the Mediterranean Sea, looking back on those cliffs, I always go back to the first time I was there and thinking, I'm so lucky to live here.
You are. But I hope all of us get to enjoy dolce far niente, which is just what you're talking about, the art of doing nothing, but not really. It's being inspired by your surroundings. We can all stop a while, put away the devices, relax, appreciate the moment as we travel throughout our precious world. Thank you, Sarah. We enjoyed it very much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thanks for listening to our award-winning podcast. We've recorded over 100 episodes of Places I Remember, so follow us on any podcast app. And new monthly episodes are also on YouTube with gorgeous video. My book, Places I Remember, is available in print and Kindle, and I read the audio version. Follow my travel writing at Forbes.com. Contact me at the links in the show notes or on my website, placesirememberlealane.com, and keep making your own travel memories.